Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great excitement and pride that we welcome you to Day 4, the Summit of Future 2025, a prestigious flagship program hosted by the esteemed Jain University. This extraordinary summit brings together visionaries, thought leaders, and change makers from across the globe to explore diverse tracks that shape our future. Today, we step into the vibrant creative track where innovation meets imagination. The day ahead promises to be nothing short of spectacular, with a rich tapestry of plenary sessions, fireside chats, panel discussions, workshops, master classes, and yes, even a fashion show. Doesn't that sound exhilarating? So, once again, welcome to Day 4 of the Summit of Future 2025. The future of creativity begins now. To set the tone for this inspiring day, we welcome you to the inaugural keynote address of Day 4 of the Summit of Future 2025, Creative Track. The theme for this keynote is Empowering Design Innovation, Leveraging Structured Frameworks for Human-Centered Design. Today, we have the privilege of introducing an individual who has redefined the way we think about innovation and design frameworks. We are honored to have with us today Professor Vijay Kumar, the Charles Endowed Chair and Professor Emeritus at the Institute of Design, Chicago. With over 30 years of global experience, Professor Kumar is a pioneer in design innovation, specializing in structured frameworks that empower organizations to uncover hidden opportunities and create impactful solutions. Please join me in welcoming Professor Vijay Kumar. Please give a big round of applause to our esteemed guest, Professor Vijay Kumar.
Okay.
I request everyone to put your phone on silent mode.
I think we can get going. We have limited time. We have exactly 1 hour, I was told, so to finish everything. And in between, we will have some question and answer session if time permits. But what I'm going to do today is give you a short tour to the journey that I had for 40 years. My journey while design was evolving. So I'll give you a quick tour of that initial few slides. And then we'll shift gears. I want to give you something as takeaway. I understand most of you are students of Jain University from the design department. Anyone from outside design department? Yeah, a few of you from without outside design. So my presentation is general enough. They'll be understandable to you as well. So what I'm going to do is we'll shift gears after the introduction to give you a sense of some of the key learnings that I've had. I call them drivers for making everyone successful in innovation. I'll share with you 5 drivers, 5 key ideas, fundamental to everyone doing innovative work. So that might be a takeaway. So my journey, 1974, I came to know about National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad, thanks to my own brother here, Gopa Kumar, who is a famous architect. My elder brother, he found out about NID, right? So he introduced the idea, oh, Vijay, you can go and join, and because he knew that I was interested in creative work. At that time, my parents were sort of preparing me to become a doctor, right? So, in Indian culture, you have doctor, engineer, or lawyer, right? 3 pathways. That is the model that we had. But fortunately, because of NID, I switched my mind from becoming a doctor to a designer, right? So I landed up in NID in 1974 as an undergraduate student, just like some of you, in product design, right? NID in Ahmedabad was started as the first design school in India. And how did it start? There was no design school in India. How did it start? Indian government invited Charles Eames, a very famous designer from USA, and his wife, Ray Ames, Charles and Ray Ames, a couple. Government of India invited them, and they toured all over India for a few months, talked to a lot of people based on their understanding. They proposed a recommendation to the government of India what kind of design school it should start. It was based on that recommendation, NID was started. So I got lucky, right? I got lucky in 74. Charles Eames returned to the school to look at how the school was doing, the one that he started. So I was really fortunate to have met him and worked with him on a workshop. And that is the beginning point of my journey of passionate work on innovation and design, because listening to Charles Eames and gurus like that who visited NID at that time, listening to those people, I was really flabbergasted by the connecting dots that they were making, connecting unrelated things and then creating something new. So I was fascinated by how their brain works, right? How do they think about innovative solutions by thinking about so many forces? I call them connecting dots. So that is the beginning of my interest in the process of design methodology. The rest of my career, fortunately or unfortunately, I got caught up with that idea of this, trying to understand methodology of design. So at NID, what I learned was classic design. While I'm talking about my journey, I'm going to take you through the evolution of design itself, right? Evolution of design itself, so that you get an idea of how design evolved and how I was part of that journey as design evolved. In those early days, NID was good in teaching classic design. Classic design is how to make the performance of a product better, how to make it look better, aesthetics, and make it easily usable, right? That is classic design practice. So I got competency in classic design during those years. But 1987, mid-80s, after graduating from NID in mid-80s, if you remember, you may not remember, you're not even born at that time, right? But during that time is when computers were coming into designers' life. The first Macintosh came, desktop publishing came, computer-aided design, CAD, computer-aided manufacturing. Those ideas were very revolutionary ideas, very similar to what we are talking about AI today, right? AI is a kind of a revolutionary thing happening today. So at that time, computers are getting into designers' life, but I could not get my hands on computers at that time, where I was practicing design back in India, the southern part of India. So I started looking around for that competency. How do I learn about computer-supported design? And then I found this professor, Charles Owen, who is a professor at Illinois Institute of Technology's Institute of Design in Chicago. In my query, I found he was doing the most cutting-edge work on computer-supported design. He called it structured planning techniques. He published a lot of papers at that time. So I used to read his papers, and then I wanted to sort of communicate to him and go to his school to do the graduate program. Right? So I got in touch with Chuck Owen and started learning about structured method. He called it structured method, especially computer-supported methods and tools and systems design. Right? The moment you have computers, you can deal with systems. Systems are a lot of things working together, right? So that is the competence that I got. And that's also part of the evolution of design. Design, earlier classic design became much more than classic design. Computer support, systemic thinking, and structured methods. So that is that part of the evolution. And then I graduated from that school, Institute of Design in Chicago, started practicing design as not design in the classic way, because design has moved from classic design to computer-supported system design, dealing with complex problems, right? So I got the opportunity to do consulting, working with a company, a startup company, where I was also the founder startup, Dublin Group. In my opinion, we kind of reframe the idea of design when we are practicing with clients. How did we reframe the idea? Of course, I started looking more like that from the previous bearded guy, right? Because I'm a consultant, right? So design became even much bigger than structured methodologies. Strategic value of design came to the forefront. In order to convince companies about the value of design, you have to create strategic plans for them using design. So that is the evolving idea in design that happened there. And human-centered design. These are key events that happened at that time when we were practicing design, a reframed way of designing with the clients, the ways in which we could convince clients that the value of design is not just making aesthetic improvements. Value of design is making it really human-centered, so that you can use it as a strategic driver for your innovation. The two things, and human centricity and strategic design became really powerful way to describe design at that time, so the client will listen to you, right? So I could work with some of those very important companies for many years. Each company used to give us multi-year projects because they saw real great value in design that can be human-centered, and it can add value to the strategy of the company. That was a major part of the evolution in design. And at that time, I had the opportunity. I got lucky in my entire journey. I would say I got lucky to be part of that journey, and I was in the right place at the right time so many times. So while working at Dublin, of course, the other part was Dublin was created to reframe design, right? So how did that happen? That itself was interesting. I got lucky again. I was the designer. It's a multidisciplinary team that led Dublin. I was playing the design part. There was another person who was playing the social science part, right? Anthropologist. She was a PhD in anthropology from University of Chicago. She's a social scientist who was bringing the human behavioral science into design, making it human-centered. There was an engineer who was doing all the technology work. There was a business expert who was converting design ideas into strategies. There was a mathematician who could do really complex mathematical projections into the future. There were even, art people like a philosopher and a poet in that team who were making things slightly, slightly fuzzy at that time. I would say fuzzy because that is what is needed. Think about abstract ideas in fuzzy ways. So I got the opportunity to develop a lot of tools and methods because my basic interest was methodology, right? The process of design. I got to develop a lot of tools and methods, hundreds of them, in the context of client projects, testing them out, and many iterations of testing, and they're all proven tools and technique, which was published as part of the book called 101 Design Method later on. Oh yeah, there it is. That book looks like that. So that was another major step in the journey. Then, after 12 years of consulting and developing design methods and testing with clients, I decided to move away from client-constrained projects to projects that I really want to do, real deep research into certain areas. So I moved from consulting into academics. So I joined the Institute of Design at Chicago as a faculty member. That gave me another opening, a lot of freedom to do research on developing newer methods and research on how to make human-centered design activity much more powerful. So I got to work with students like you. That was the best part of my life, because working with students with young minds on new ideas was extremely enriching part of my journey. So. At that time, of course, we moved into a new building in Chicago. We built our own building. And I got the opportunity to interact at a global level with other universities doing research and other consulting work or advising or workshops and things like that. So about 18 years I did that. Again, a lot of knowledge being generated during that time, which is again shared in the book. And this is what I'm doing. When I share my ideas, those ideas are embedded in my presentation. So what is the main focus during those years? Human-centered design became humanity-centered design. Right? That's a big step that is happening today. Design is taking that elevated look. It's not just enough to make it human-centered, make it usable for people. Not just enough. You have to become much bigger. We have the whole world to design for, right? We have the humanity-centered. You have to take care of the environment, the planet that we are living, the life of the society and the community. We have to take care of the government who is serving us. Those are all important areas that designers need to play a role in. That's where I think design is going. Even in your future, most of you will be working at that level. It's not just making a product better, right? It's creating innovations that can really affect humanity at that level. So that's something. And then social innovation, obviously, a lot of designers need to play a big role in creating people's communities' life better, society better, socially relevant innovations, right? So I'll show you a few examples of what those are later on. But that was a big step that happened. But I think it is ongoing now. In the future, we'll have to pay attention to those kinds of ideas. So a lot more organizations like this I could work with. These are. Not only these are not consulting projects that I was doing. These are real deep research projects, come out with insights and tell the companies and organizations that these are the insights or ideas or concept abstract levels. So these are not consulting projects. So that opportunity was fabulous as well. So not only private sector, public sector organizations. Right? I could work with some of the public sector organization, which is probably the most satisfying to me, because so working with entities like the Government Summit, United Arab Emirates, or foundations, the Bloomberg Philanthropies, those are great organizations that are at the leading edge of public innovations. For example, I worked with United Arab Emirates, UAE's Prime Minister's office for a couple of years, helping them set up a government innovation center there. And UAE, as you know, is probably, in my opinion, the most powerful government innovative, most powerful government that does the innovative work out of all the countries. Their programs are amazing. They train each and every employee of the government, each and every staff of the government. They train them to do design thinking, the kind of design that we are doing, human-centered design. Everyone is a certified designer in the government. So they have to go through a certificate program so that they are empowered to create innovations around the design-driven ideas that will benefit the human beings and the humanity ultimately. So that's the level in which we are working now. So if you look at the trajectory of the evolution of design, moved from classic design to systems design to strategic human-centered design to humanity-centered design and social innovation that affects everyone in a larger scale. So that's what that's what I would see. You would be young minds here in your future. You will be playing a big role in there. You have to elevate yourself to play a big role there. And moving forward, of course, you have to take thought leadership. That's what I'm trying to do now, thought leadership. Leadership based on all the ideas that you generated. How can you take a leadership role there? So that's the quick look at my journey and as design evolved. Right? So now let's shift gears. Focus is not on me. Focus is on what I learned. What are some of the fundamental principles that I learned that I'm going to share with you, which is important for everyone to be successful. I call them drivers. These are the drivers that are needed for us to do our own work. One driver, there are 5 of them. I'll go step by step and give you some examples and some more ideas. Humanizing technology, right? This ought to be a key driver, especially today. Especially today when we are talking about AI, like I mentioned, AI is everywhere. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence. Where does it come from? The technology side. The programmers and the computer science are the one driving AI, right? So they're driving AI so fast and so rapidly that we could lose our way if it is done inhumanly. That's where designers come in. Whatever AI that is being developed, AI systems that are being developed by technologists, they're powerful. They're extremely powerful and useful. But are they human? Right? That's what we have to make sure. That are they useful for you and I? Are they empathic to me, empathic to my needs, my desires, and things like that? That's what we need to sort of understand and respond to people's changing behaviors and create humanized solutions that goes beyond improvements in performance and aesthetics. That's the idea, that it's not good enough to make a computer app and it functions and features better. You have to go beyond that to make it really usable for human beings. Human-centered design is at the core of that. This situation is familiar to some of you, right? You're pulling your hair, you're completely at a loss. I don't know what to do, I'm stuck, right? With the technology. That's where the human-centeredness is required. Technology products that come in front of us really takes away a lot of our effort. Right now we are struggling like that, right? Trying to connect my computer to this projector. Simple thing. It should be a simple thing to do, right? We are struggling for about half an hour with all the technology jargon of resolution and all kinds of things, right? So that should not be there. Should not have been there in the first place. So this situation is basically because of some of those reasons, complex connections, right? I always talk about IoT and home control systems, right? Any appliance, anything in the home can be interconnected. They can control everything from computer. Idea is great, but the technology behind it does not let me do that. I tried so many times to connect my air conditioner with the washing machine and with the Nest system. I gave up, right? I give up because of the ways in which the challenges are in front of us. So complex connection, too many features. Many a times, if you look at any of the remote control that you have, that you take, hundreds of features. You're confused which one to operate, right? Too many features is a bad, poor interface, steep learning curve, technical jargon that people use in technology. Some of the reason why it is a challenge for us. Now we have to take it on as designers. If she is your customer or your end user, you really will have to get into her mind and understand her fully, right? Her mind, right? Not what you see. Not what you see, what she thinks, what she feels, her anxieties, her needs and desires and hopes and behaviors. We really need to understand how she behaves. More recently, some of the research that we're doing on human-centered design is what is called irrational behaviors. Understanding irrational behaviors, which is such a key thing, right? In this room, all of us behave irrationally. A lot of times. Some of you are laughing. All of us behave irrationally, right? So that's the fundamental nature of, say for example, I know I am diabetic on the borderline, but still keep eating sugar, right? Still drinking sweets, I'm eating sweets. Why? Because that's an irrational behavior. I know it's wrong thing to do, but I still do that, right? So lots of our behaviors are in that irrational area. We need to understand that, produce concepts and systems for the human being, right? Beliefs and biases, another area that highly focused on understanding people's biases. All of us have bias. We have professional bias, emotional bias, cultural bias, all kinds, social bias. So we act in a biased way, right? Can we understand that? So a lot of research is being done there to understand, really get into the mind of people. So one of the things to understand people, to get in the mind of people, is to practice the art of listening. Right? Listening is such a great skill to have. So in our school, design school, we have classes on listening techniques, listening tools. That is something not very intuitive for all of us. We are all articulate. We want to talk a lot and very articulate. Art of listening sometimes is missing, especially in designers when they do interviews and things like that. I've observed that so many times. For example, let me go back to that. Yeah, this slide. One of the ways in which these two are my students, right? They are interviewing the father. That father, we're doing a research technique. Interviewing the father who took these pictures. We asked that father to take pictures on cooking. The project was on cooking appliance. So we asked the father, can you take pictures of anything that is important for you on cooking? So he took pictures, and then we go back to him, and he will look at the pictures and tell stories about why he took the picture. So this student is trained to ask just one question. Why did you take that picture? That's the only question that he is supposed to ask. We don't go with preconditioned questionnaires and other pre-prepared 100 questions that you want to ask him. Set that all aside. Just ask one question because you want to listen to his story, right? Why did you take this picture? He will tell you why, lots of stories. We have to capture all that. This student's role is just to capture that. She's quiet. She is not uttering a single word. She's sitting there just capturing everything that this dad is telling us. Right? That is gold for us. There's a lot of golden material involved in his stories that can reveal his mindset, his behaviors, and his needs and things like that. So that, and the third person who's not visible here is to document, videotape the whole session. So 3 people, research teams are sent. One person asks just one question, and one question or 2 questions maybe. If he says, if there is a pause that he's silent for some time, then he asks, tell me more. Tell me more. Right? That's the second question. So all that you're saying, so the point is, don't ask biased, leading questions at all. Just listen why you took the pictures and listen, tell me more if there is a pause, right? So that's, and then innovation should feel like a gift from a knowing friend. That's another part of the humanizing technologies. Anything that you produce, think of it as a gift that you're going to give it to your customer, right? That you're going to sell. Gift giving is empathic thinking, right? You're thinking about the person who's going to receive the gift, and will my product put a smile on that person or not? If you can think that way. And empathic thinking is still not intuitive for us to do. We're all egoistic people, right? We think about ourselves, not about others, many a time. And empathic thinking is not just thinking like another person, it's like feeling like another person. That's the pure definition of empathy. How can you feel like another person? That's a very tough thing to do, right? It's not intuitive at all. But how can you develop techniques to do that? That's the challenge for us. One of the, here is an example of the research or innovation project that we did called, for a company, not company, it's a non-profit organization called Cure Violence. This is a very interesting project because I took this project as an example because it's not a conventional project. You may not understand the background of this project at all. Don't shoot, right? That is the project. How to reduce shooting-related violence in risky neighborhoods in Chicago. Chicago has certain risky neighborhoods, a lot of gang-related activities and drug trafficking and bad behavior happening. My designers have to take the initiative to play a role there. It's our community, right? So this is a project that we did, and then of course, think about that project. Think about doing research in that context. How do you do research about gangsters, right? You cannot go and do video ethnography in their neighborhood. You cannot land up in their streets and say, we are going to video shoot your behaviors. Right? If you shoot them, they will shoot you back. So that's the situation. So what do we do as designers? We have to take on that challenge. How do we do research and try to understand some of these risky people? Our students are very bright. Like you guys come out with very great ideas, right? They're very, very bright. They came out with an idea which is very powerful in trying to understand their behaviors. They decided that they contacted Cure Violence, the non-profit organization. They had an office in one of the risky neighborhoods called Endowed. They had an office there. They said, "Can you announce a barbecue session on a Saturday evening and invite everyone from the community?" So Cure Violence announced, come this Saturday, everyone, we are going to have a barbecue session on our backyard. Come and have some fun. So that is the event. And our student team landed up there. We landed up there, and these risky people also landed up there. Families landed up there because it's a party, right? Barbecue session. Everyone is enjoying and having fun and talking to each other. It is a celebratory mood that they created. Once you create the celebratory mood, then they are open to talk a little bit, some of these risky fellows, right? So our students started asking, why do you indulge in this shooting? Aren't you scared? That's the question that aren't you scared of shooting? That it's a risky thing to do. So this girl told us, this girl is one of those high risk person. She has a gun, and she is moving around with gangsters. So she told, actually not this girl, a 22-year-old boy. She was part of the same guy. 22-year-old boy told us that I'm 22-year-old now, but I'm having fun. So we asked him, what do you mean you're having fun? Shooting people. He said, by 28, I know I'll be dead. That's the answer. By 28, I know I'll be dead. That's why I'm having fun now. Imagine that mindset of that young kid, 22-year-old kid, that he set up his mind and decided there's no life after 28. So that's the kind of mindset that most of the people have that. That's why it is a risky neighborhood. How do you deal with it? That is a challenge for us. We'll talk about how we dealt with that challenge. But in this part, I want to focus on the research, trying to understand the behavior of these challenging situations is very much part of our work. Standing in the future. So I'm going to pause here a little bit. Any questions? Any comments or questions on the humanizing technology part? So let me ask you a question which, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, this is the interview. We created the barbecue session. Informally, we talked to them. That is an interview, informally, without telling them. We talked to them, and we learned a lot about them. And then some of like the girl that you saw there, she was ready to come with us and do a card sort experiment. Card sorting, card pictures and sorting. You can get a lot about what that person is thinking. Those are the kinds of research that we could do. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Move on to the second section, standing in the future. Standing in the future. Okay. In this section, I'm going to this is about creating ideas for the future, right? This is about creating ideas for the future. One of the key drivers is the idea of standing in the future, which is there are two ways to think about futuristic ideas as designers. Two ways to think about it. One is standing in the present and think about the future. What does it mean? Standing in the present, looking at all the problems. Oh, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. You can fix all the problems and create a solution. That is standing in the future and creating problems. Solving problems. But standing in the future is different. You have to look at the trends and create scenarios and create solutions. Trends are evolving things in the world, like AI is a big trend, right? So in the future, what would the world be if it is AI all around? And think about that scenario of the future, and then think about solutions. I'm going to use a picture to describe that. Fixing customers' problem by standing in the present is one way. The other way is imagining the ideal future for customers and figure out how to get there. Right? Imagine an ideal future based on the trends that are happening in the future and figure out how do I get into that future, take the steps to get there. So that's a different way of thinking. And in our research, we found out that this method is the one that is used to create breakthrough innovations or disruptive innovation. Really breakthrough, disruptive innovation that is not very familiar today, right? Can be done with that idea. Whereas this kind of standing in the present, creating a future, what does it produce? What kind of ideas? Incremental ideas, like incremental improvements. I missed out on one slide there. This is from a project that we did for healthcare design. So we have to track all the trends that could affect healthcare. So hundreds of trends we have to study as designers and then pick out the most significant ones and the most impactful ones and then fully focus on that to think about the future, right? So the trend idea is there. And then, this example. One of the ways in which people have created really powerful concepts is I'm going to illustrate through this example of Marriott Hotels or any hotel chain, innovative hotel chain, creates lots of innovation for the customers, for the people who come to stay there. Beautiful experiences they create, beautiful architecture and environment they create, right? That's their strategy to attract customers. Airbnb, for example. The Airbnb is popular here, right? I understand it's a lot popular here. Airbnb came out with a different idea. It's the same demographic that they're serving, travelers, right? Supporting the staying requirements of travelers. Airbnb came out with a different concept. They were not building hotels and environment. All that they built was a software platform on which they brought the guest and the host together, connected them, allowed them to interact and create a beautiful experiential place to stay. Whenever I travel, I always prefer Airbnb because you do too, right? Yeah. Why do you think you do that? Why do you think what is the reason for doing that? Yes, exactly. The freedom of, the space that you want to live in. Right, yeah, exactly. So, far off, the location. You get an advantage of the location, right? And the people, the touch with the people, that is something I value. Many a time. Reviews, yeah. Reviews is, right, yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. So that is user-centered, right? Really people-centered innovation Airbnb created. The story of Airbnb itself is interesting. Two designers from Rhode Island School, they are the founders of Airbnb. Two designers from Rhode Island School of Design are the founders of the whole idea. They are multi-billionaires now. Two designers plus one computer scientist from the university brought in the whole idea of Airbnb. So that's a very powerful platform idea, platform-based thinking. It's called platform. All that they created was a platform infrastructure, and they connected, they interacted, the guest and the host. Created very wonderful interaction, right? You may have realized the website is pretty compelling, and out comes the value or staying just like a home, not the regular standard hotel rooms. So that's a platform idea. If you look at the valuation of Marriott, it's about $75 billion last week. I just tested $75 billion last week. Airbnb valuation, $85 billion, more than the Marriott. Imagine they don't own a single land. They don't have any property, no capital intensive thing at all, whereas Marriott have billions of dollars as assets, right? So even with that asset, Airbnb is faring pretty well. They're doing pretty well, I would say. So that, and if you look at many of the other most successful companies in the world, they're all platform based, like Google and Twitter. Twitter disappeared, of course. All kinds of. They're all platform-based. I looked at the most innovative companies in the world today. Out of the 1,000, about 65% of the companies are platform-based companies. So that itself shows you some idea about the power of platforms. Now, three more quickly. Are we doing good on time? How many more time, sir? 10 more minutes? Okay. That I'll really run through the three. Okay. Now, but these two are very important. I can skip through this very easily. These two, I'll focus on those two. That is, doing greater good. Right? Earlier, I mentioned about the social innovations. Right? Here is where, as designers, we have to enrich our communities through social innovations. Focus not only on products and services, but on the people and their life as a society. Like it's a collective thing. Designed for and within the community. That's the idea there. The previous example of reducing violence is a very powerful social innovation that we produced. But I want to give you some sense of, I talked about the research challenges. I want to give you some sense of what came out of the project. One of the ideas that came out was from the initial research, we found out that a lot of community members from that risky neighborhood have gone to jail, and they return from the jail too, right, after their term, right? People who return from the jail, 95% of the people want to reform themselves. They don't want to indulge in violence anymore. So that's an opportunity for Cure Violence, the organization, to build their innovation. So this guy, he was in jail for 12 years. He returned to the same community, right? So Cure Violence hires him, gives him a job as a negotiator. gives him negotiation skills and those kinds of skills of interaction, right? Gives him that skill. What does he do? He acts like medicine, right? When you have disease, you inject medicine, right? When there is escalation of violence in that community, he interrupts. He interrupts. So he will be watching out for any kind of escalation of violence. Most of the shooting happen in a small scale. Two boys get into a fight because of their girlfriends, right? They get into a fight. And then the gang, other people join that fight, and it escalates into such a level that it can result in shooting, right? That's where most of the shooting happened. So this guy, when that escalation happened, he makes a call. Makes a call, oh, come on, take it easy, man. We'll do something else. He's got negotiation skills, right? So he interrupts this guy trying to do some escalation of violence. He interrupts it, and in 90% of the cases, we found out that it fizzles out. Escalation fizzles out. It doesn't happen because they are ready to believe him. Police cannot do that. Police cannot interrupt. If there's an escalation of violence, police goes, hey, stop doing that. They don't listen to police. They don't want force to determine their behaviors. Whereas they will listen to this guy because he's from the same community. He went through life with them, right? So much more effective in terms of a strategy. So very successful strategy. Wherever we have used this strategy, the percentage of shooting came down drastically. We also created something like the 22-year-old boy who said there's no life after 28. Is because he sees negative things happening all the time. His friends getting killed. And everyone is sort of a negative phenomenon. So we created a good news engine. Bad news spreads very fast, right? So can we celebrate good news? Lots of good news happening in those communities. Like one kid got into Harvard University. Nobody talks about it much, but that has to be celebrated. So this good news engine solicits good news from the community, all small news items, and they aggregate all those items and celebrate it by posting it as stickers and posters and post it all over the village or the community. So everyone, oh, there is life after 28. There's something good happening in our community. So that'll result in a behavioral change. We are looking at behavioral change. So that also is very powerful. We prototyped it in Englewood community, and behavioral change is amazing. When people see positive things, they also start behaving positively, right? So those are the things that, of course, very quickly, one more example for social innovation. 40% of high school students drop out in USA. And a huge problem, which is reverse of in Indian society. We value education, right? Everyone should go to school and get educated. There it is going in the reverse direction, right? That's a huge concern, right? So we did a project on doing research, same way as the shooting project. We involved a lot of school dropouts and a lot of research and co-creation activities, trying to understand what their needs are, and then came out with, say, one simple solution. Out of the 100 solutions that we had was one simple solution. We called it Exposure Studio. The people who drop out, they go and hang out on the streets, right? They don't see the real life of people, how businesses are run, how the real life happens. They don't see. They are fully engrossed in street-based activities, and they're very brilliant people. We have studied a lot of school dropouts. We might think that school dropouts are useless people. They're duds. They're useless. That's what we will think. They dropped out because they're not good in anything. But that's not true. Absolutely not true. We interviewed all the school dropouts. They're most brilliant people, right? They drop out not because they're not good, for other reasons, like peer pressure, family pressure, single mothers in their family. They go through real bad family life, peer pressure, and non-relevance to the subjects that they learn. If you look at the curriculum of the school, right? World history, US history, social studies, When did that curriculum start? 100 years ago. 100-year-old curriculum, we are still following. The world has changed a lot, right? So they think it's not relevant anymore. That's another reason why they drop out of the school. So many reasons we found out, and then we found out that if we can give them some exposure to the world that is happening around them, their life could change, right? So we created an exposure studio where groups of these kids are brought in. Sometimes we take them on tours. 5 or 6 people going into businesses like Starbucks and other places. A tour is given to them so that they can see how the Starbucks works or a photography studio works. So many businesses we take them. Then they start saying, "Oh, I can do some work in those areas." Their minds start opening up into possibilities. So that's what Exposure Studio does, and we actually created this is just across my Institute of Design in Chicago. We created an actual Exposure Studio facility where kids are coming and they're getting to know about possibilities. That's the idea, possibilities in life. So very powerful. And last section, designing for humanity. This is about enriching us, as I mentioned, enriching our society and our planet in a very higher level. You're familiar with this, right? Do you know what it is? Yeah, Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, prepared by United Nations. I find it a very powerful framework that UN has done. They have set certain goals for 2030 to be achieved and touches all life. The entire humanity is touched on. As I said, some goals, and lots of people have rallied around these goals, and they're taking action. So, and the last example that I want to give you is another project that we did called Mayor's Challenge. Bloomberg Philanthropy did a project called Mayor's Challenge. In my opinion, out of all the projects that I have been involved with, this is probably the most impactful and valuable project, in my opinion, because of its impact on the world. What is Mayor's Challenge? Bloomberg Philanthropies, it's a philanthropic organization led by Michael Bloomberg. He created the Mayor's Challenge. He challenges all the mayors. 4 years ago, he challenged all the US mayors. Last year, he challenged the mayors around the world to come out with an idea that you want to implement in your city that will make your citizens' life better. Come out with an idea that you want to implement in your city that will make the citizens' life better. We want to make it human-centered. That's why the citizens' life better. So that is a simple challenge. And the mayors, we got 635 proposals from all over the world last year. Lots of ideas. Some of them about dealing with homelessness. Some of them about improving the healthcare system. Lots of types of ideas. And I was part of the selection committee. Looking through, I was really fascinated by all kinds of ideas mayors are coming out with. So last year, these are some of the winners. Challenge results in some kind of winning and some kind of sponsorship, monetary sponsorship, because Bloomberg Philanthropies, Michael Bloomberg has a lot of money, right? So this is his way of charity, right? Providing charity. Yeah, you were looking at this dot, right? Last year, there was one winner from India, Rourkela. Mayor in Rourkela won because one of their ideas was interesting. See, he can see the Rourkela there. Some of the other cities, winning cities. But this group of women in Rourkela started working with the mayor's office. They said that we are going to improve the life of vegetable vendors on the street. On the street, people sit on the side and sell vegetables and fruits. But at the end of the day, they can't sell everything. 80% of their products are sold, 20% goes waste because they can't store it anywhere, right? So their business model is really sort of badly conceived. 80%, only 20% wastage, right? How can a business model work? Any profit that they make is down the drain because of the 20% wastage. So these women decided to address that problem. So they came out with a simple solution. It's not a big solution. Let us, with the mayor's support, let us create cooling centers, small cooling centers all across, very close to their marketplace especially, and lease them out to these women. So the evening, when they go back home, they come with the 20%, put it in a refrigerator, which is run by this group of women, and in the morning they take it out and they start selling. So wastage is minimized by creating, they created a very good network to make it happen. Implementation is a big problem, right? To make that happen, with mayor support, they created a nice technology-based implementation, and it is working as a business model. So Mayor's Challenge started with the idea, and then Mayor's Challenge, the idea is great. So the first phase of the Mayor's Challenge project is, your idea is great. Now we give you 8 more months to prototype it and test it. So all these mayors spends about 8 months' time prototyping and testing their ideas. Then they come back with their testing results. Then we look at it again. Then we look at it again and then decide which one to be sponsored. Once it is really implementable, Bloomberg Philanthropies gives them millions of dollars to implement those ideas. So that's why I said it is a very powerful. This is the selection committee that I worked with. You can see Michael Bloomberg there, multi-billionaire, but a kind one. And then how did we create this Mayor's Challenge? Mayor's Challenge is based on design thinking, design process that we talk about, right? So Mayor's office don't have designers like you working. They are typical government employees. You have to teach them, the process of doing research and prototyping and things like that. How do we teach them? We created a pool of 100 coaches, many of them my ex-students. 100 coaches, they are experts in this kind of design thinking. They're all sent to various mayor's offices, and they go and work with the mayor's office in brainstorming and doing research and telling them how to create a prototype. That had an immense effect on the mayor's office. And nowadays, some mayor's offices look like this. They look like an architect's studio, right? They used to look like a dark government office, right? Mayor's offices started looking like this because they knew about brainstorming and idea generation, things like that. That is a massive ripple effect that we had. So I will leave it. This is just maybe just the first slide. This is a discipline model that I've described that you may have. You will have to have your own discipline methodology for design. So in this model, there are 7 modes, right, that you have to go through. Sensing intent. What am I designing? Doing research on the context, doing research on people, and elevating everything into the abstract level and framing insight, creating a lot of ideas and packaging those ideas into solutions and implementing them. They're pretty simple, straightforward methodology that I'm pretty sure you have your own methodology, right? So that's the idea, to have a disciplined methodology to make all this happen. Ran out of time, but I think I covered sufficiently well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening session. Your vision and expertise have truly inspired us, sir. As a token of appreciation, we would like to present a memento to our esteemed guest, Professor Vijay Kumar. For that, I would now like to invite Mrs. Simi Nirmal, Manager, Student Relations, Jain University, Kochi, to come forward and hand over the memento to our esteemed guest, Professor Vijay Kumar.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you. Photo. One second. told